Hello and welcome to Eastern Europe Review, a program focusing on Belarus, Ukraine and Russia. This is a joint production of BELSAT TV and TVP World. My name is Dmitry Mitskevich and here are the main topics of today's issue. Why won't Poland send troops to Ukraine?
Decisions regarding Polish actions will be made in Warsaw and only in Warsaw. For now, we are not planning such actions.
What is life like for children in Ukraine's Kherson region amidst ongoing shellings and air raids?
About 20 children come to us every day. We can't accept more because it's dangerous.
Russian conscript shot dead in the army.
People who contact us report that many men are still being forcibly taken into the army.
The possibility of a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia is widely discussed among Western leaders. As Ukraine allies, Western countries cannot allow it to agree to a ceasefire on terms that are unfavorable. They also cannot permit Putin to freeze the war now, only to launch another attack in a few years' time.
Poland will not send its troops to Ukraine, even as part of a peacekeeping mission. This was stated by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk during a meeting with the French president. He explained that this decision is crucial for the security of Poland and the entire European continent. As an Eastern EU member, Poland must maintain a substantial military presence near its borders with Belarus and Russia.
Decisions regarding Polish actions will be made in Warsaw and only in Warsaw. For now, we are not planning such actions. We will work with France on solutions that will, first and foremost, protect Europe and Ukraine from the resumption of conflict, if an agreement can be reached on a truce and possibly peace.
It was Macron who first proposed sending troops to Ukraine. However, this idea did not receive broad support among European leaders. Discussions are now underway regarding the possibility of establishing a peacekeeping mission, should an agreement be reached to end the current phase of the war and establish a demarcation line. According to Politico, it is likely that Macron discussed this with Donald Trump during a meeting in Paris. The creation of such a mission would align with the intentions of Trump's key advisors, who have proposed freezing the war along the front line and establishing control over it to prevent Russia from crossing or violating the line in the future.
There's no peace in Ukraine without the Ukrainians, and no one can speak on Ukraine's behalf regarding possible concessions or talking points. That is for the Ukrainians to decide. Similarly, there can be no security in Europe without the Europeans. This is why ongoing debates and discussions are so important. Sustainable peace in Ukraine means long-lasting security in Europe.
While Kiev has concerns, the head of the Ukrainian president's office stated on Wednesday that Donald Trump, during his meeting in Paris, expressed a willingness to end the Russia-Ukraine war with a just peace, one that does not contradict Volodymyr Zelensky's victory plan.
This includes the full restoration of our territorial integrity and the resolution of all outstanding issues, such as accountability, reconstruction, compensation, the return of all prisoners of war and civilians, the return of all our people, the restoration of environmental damage, and addressing the food, energy and other crises.
The Ukrainian finance minister is certain that if Washington, under a Trump administration, stops military aid to Kiev, then this would be a serious challenge. It would not, however, mean a collapse.
Ukraine is currently receiving the necessary weapons from the US. We will be well equipped to resist aggression at least through the first half of 2025 and beyond. Ukraine must use this time wisely to conduct necessary negotiations with our key allies in the US.
The plans being proposed by Trump's advisors regarding negotiations with Russia include favorable terms for Ukraine. However, as reported on Thursday, Trump is opposed to long-range strikes on Russian territory. If he reverses Biden's earlier decision, it could not only weaken Ukraine's position, but also potentially force it to negotiate on terms unfavorable to its interests.
In Kherson, mothers take their children to various clubs and activities amid the sounds of air raids and gunfire. The main objective is to help young Ukrainians get back their childhood and emotional experiences, which are often missing due to online education in kindergarten or school. But most importantly, the focus is on helping children cope with the emotional and psychological trauma caused by the war.
6-year-old Polina sticks to her routine. Before heading to the Mother and Child Center, she always enjoys a moment on the swing.
How many friends do you have?
Not many, just few. Masha, then me, Karina too, and Polina from the center.
The girl's mother, Olha, says that the journey to the Mother and Child Center is the most challenging part. They must navigate carefully when leaving their home, as the road is frequently shelled by the Russian army.
Kherson is the Russian roulette city. One moment it's quiet, and next you hear an explosion. Now it's quiet again, but in a moment it could be loud. Of course, I'd like to get there safely.
The risk here is not entirely justified, but this is life in Kherson. Olha explains. She knows that little Polina misses interacting with other children and sees how much the girl looks forward to her visits to the center. Despite the dangers, this is why she takes the risk. While Polina was being interviewed, her 10-year-old sister Anya had already unwrapped a candy with a fortune prediction inside.
Today we're celebrating a day of small gifts. It might only be a sweet with tea, but it's so nice to see someone smile. I even have a prediction that says I should eat the candy.
Before the main classes, there is free-form warm-up on gym balls. Children of various ages can visit the center. There are no formal lessons and homework is not checked. The primary goal is to support children's communication development, while also alleviating emotional stress and offering psychological relief from the constant sounds of explosions and air raids.
We don't plan anything, we provide the basics, and the rest is organized according to the children's wishes. They're our bosses.
The idea to open a Mother and Child Center emerged immediately after the liberation of Kherson. According to the coordinator, the center has welcomed approximately 500 boys and girls since it began operating. To make the experience both engaging and, most importantly, educational for the children, the team carefully selected a diverse staff, including teachers, psychologists, rehabilitation therapists, and speech therapists.
About 20 children come to us every day. We can't accept more because it's dangerous.
Tatiana, a psychologist, explains that every child experiences war based on their level of involvement. Children in Kherson are no different from others. However, they now live close to the conflict, and their actions and words reflect their understanding of the situation.
We pay close attention to the emotional state of the child, as it's very important. In today's reality, and especially in Kherson, this is a priority. Children are like sponges, they're very receptive and notice everything happening around them. Our focus is on supporting their emotional well-being.
According to research by UNICEF, children in Ukraine's frontline regions and cities have spent between a total of 3,000 to 5,000 hours in bomb shelters and basements, which amounts to anywhere from 4 to 7 months. Prolonged exposure to such conditions can harm a child's development and psychological stability. to brighten their lives, the Mother and Child Center works to welcome the young residents of Kherson several times a week, despite the ongoing hostilities.
A 19-year-old conscript, Артём Антонов, was shot dead at a military training area in Primorsky region of Russia. His relatives claim that he was forced to sign a contract. The young man refused to fight in Ukraine and as a result was subjected to abuse and beatings.
The death of a 19-year-old conscript from Tatarstan attracted widespread attention after an obituary was published on social media.
A very young guy from Verkhny Uslon, Antonov Артём Gennadievich, born in 2005, has died. At the age of 19, he chose to give his life for his homeland.
Journalists from the independent project Important Stories discovered that the 19-year-old conscript was shot at the Ilyinsky military training area, where he was being trained for deployment to the Kursk region near the border with Ukraine.
During the training, Y violated the rules for handling firearms. He removed the safety catch from an AK-12 assault rifle, pointed the barrel towards the personnel being instructed, and while pulling the trigger, fired a shot. One of the bullets struck Antonov in the head.
The conscript died on the spot. During the preliminary investigation, it was revealed that the fatal shot had been fired by a lieutenant, whose name was initially withheld. However, journalists from the Vodtak website were able to discover his identity.
According to our source in the security forces, this lieutenant is a resident of Izhevsk, 22-year-old Alexander Yemelyanov. A criminal case has been opened in connection with the death of the private under charges of violation of the rules for handling weapons, which resulted in the death of a person through negligence.
It is unclear whether the murder is related to the man's reluctance to go to the front.
Артём served only 4 months. He was being trained as a rifleman, as his fellow soldiers believed, for the war with Ukraine. He refused to sign a contract, despite the fact that, according to the relatives of soldiers serving in this unit, they were forced under duress to sign contracts there.
According to Antonov's relatives, the conscripts were coerced into fighting in the unit through harsh methods. Артём, in particular, was beaten with iron rods and was put on duty for several days in a row.
On duty, he was punished. Everyone was punished.
The lieutenant faces up to 5 years in prison for the murder of the conscript. However, this is unlikely to stop the pressure within the army. Russian men, aged between 18 to 30, are being detained and forcibly taken to the military enlistment office as part of the ongoing conscription campaign.
Who are you, anyway? And who is this young man in a grey hat?
A group of men caught 22-year-old Artur, a student from Moscow, at the door of his apartment. After disconnecting the electricity meter, they set up an ambush on the floor which his apartment was on.
These people surrounded me, saying that I was a draft dodger and should immediately go to the police department.
Lawyers that conscripts turn to for help report 2.5-fold increase in forceful detentions over the past year. Meanwhile, the relatives of some conscripts are left searching for missing sons, brothers, and husbands. Despite the Kremlin's promises, these people are sent to the combat zone.
People who contact us report that many men are still being forcibly taken into the army. According to them, the situation is at a stalemate, and the raids are widespread.
A conscript from Cheboksary was tricked into signing a contract. He was assured that he was only signing documents for a simple formality. The next day, the young man realized he had been deceived and filed a report to terminate the contract, but it was not accepted. Another conscript was sent to war against his will after someone signed the contract on his behalf. The court refused to allow him to return home. After his death, an examination revealed that the signature on the contract had been forged.
That's all for today. Eastern Europe Review will be back next Sunday. Please stay with TVP World and stand with Ukraine.